Ladies and gentlemen, and sadness, and as crazy as this world has gone, we lost a legend. I don't need to talk about sports this time around. We got to talk about somebody that is an absolute icon and living legend that passed away Saturday afternoon. I am 48 and I grew up when you were sick every weekday and you didn't go to school. You prayed, you were either sitting in bed or sitting on the couch, and you got to see Bob Barker every day on The Price is Right. For 35 years, that man ran The Price is Right. Did not start it, but he ran The Price is Right. There's no question we lost an icon, but you give credit where credit is due. I really wish I could put a lot of music in anything. I don't want to copyright anything because I was going to play the actual theme to it while doing this small take that I'm doing late at night. But thing is, I'll tell you something right now. That man was, in fact, a living legend. No question about it. We're talking, like I said, 35 years as the host of The Price is Right. He did this until he was 83, and his last episode was in 2007. In case a lot of people don't know, he really was, in fact, not necessarily a cultural legend, but an icon figure, but a very, very big person outside of The Price is Right, where he was with he was very big, along with his late wife Dorothy. I'm sorry, I keep looking at different types of stuff, but when he did a lot of stuff with the Humane Society, there was a reason that he did his famous thing at the end of every episode: make sure your pet's spayed or neutered. He was very, very hardcore as far as that, and he made that sure he was going to say that at every single episode. So he did a lot of things. He did a ton of things that people don't know. He was a host of Truth or Consequences back in the day, 1956, and he started The Price is Right in 1972. Imagine that one. So we got to see that man through 35 years, whether it was late nights doing the evening shows, but every 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, 8 on the Pacific Coast, we went to those Hollywood studios, which is now named the Bob Barker Studio in Hollywood, which at this moment is being renovated. There's a lot of going on because that entire studio area is where The Price is Right is being held. It's also, I believe, where the Late Late Show is being, I think James Borton does his talk show. That entire area is being renovated. So currently, The Price is Right is being done, I think, down the road in another studio until it has completely been renovated. So the current host right now, Drew Carey, has his hands full, but Bob Barker selected Drew Carey to take over that franchise, take over the longest running game show in television history. And people have their opinions with Drew Carey. Drew's made it his show. There's many times Drew has brought Bob Barker on the show as special guest. Bob promoted his book. Bob wanted to go in as an April Fool's, and I still remember that episode. It was an April Fool's, and he had the very first contestant on there, and they played Lucky Seven, and she won, and he acted like he was the great grandfather, as hilarious as he could be at 80, at some years, whatever. Whenever he did that show, I still remember it to this day. I will still remember him with that wit that he always had. It wasn't about the women. It wasn't about being cool with the other guys and doing all the sorts of things. You had to remember, if you're a game show nut, there's a lot of them. I just remember a lot of things that not necessarily myself and even my own sister. We're both game show nuts. We remember old game shows. We remember some of the old hosts, some of the old game shows that, some didn't even last a year. And but no matter what, I remember it was always going to be the two major ones. Wheel of Fortune, Price is Right. We're always going to be on every single day. And then all through the 80s, even a little bit in the 70s, early in the 80s, some in the 90s, there was a lot of hodgepodge in between. A lot of different game shows tried to throw themselves into the pool in your evening, in your afternoon, morning shows. I mean, there's too many I can name. There's too many I can name, but Pressure Luck was on there. A couple shows by Bob Eubanks. A couple shows by Jim Perry. We all remember Sale of the Century. We remember Card Sharks. But I'll tell you what, they can all have those half-hour shows that you can never, ever replace an hour-long show like The Price is Right. And I remember times that The Price is Right went to a half hour. In fact, it was a half hour when it started. And then they tried to do it with some other different hosts. And yes, I remember Tom Kennedy did it a couple times. There was a Doug Davidson. If you know that name, he was on Young and the Restless. Don't ask me how I know that. But he tried to do the half-hour evening of The New Price is Right. It wasn't the same. It just wasn't. Because you knew what Bob does. You knew how Bob acted. And I loved it. I mean, as a kid, as just somebody that just watched him every day, because I would flip game shows during the summertime. I would watch all the different ones, and there were a lot of big ones, a lot of major ones that always were on. And Sale of the Century was on, Card Sharks was on, Wheel of Fortune was always on. ABC tried to do a couple. ABC's not really a game show channel. Now they tried to do it. Now they're trying to do it during the summer. Think of the things that Bob has done. He did Truth or Consequences, did The Price is Right 35 years. He did the Miss Universe or Miss USA pageant for a handful of years. I remember those times. And you just picture all the things that he did. Like, saw some girl running down the to the stage. And I remember him talking about, down she came and out they came. However they did. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you can look it up. I'm not going there. But those are the funniest things because he did so much. And I just remember the fun games that he did. When he does his putt for hole in one. When he tells gentlemen or ladies, does he have one number right on one away? When they do Golden Road. Cliffhangers, the iconic game that they do on there. And now since Drew took over, that cliffhanger has a name, and it's Hans. And I like to joke around and say that Hans is the toughest fictional character in the history of television, because I say, you know how many times that mountain climbers fell off that cliff in 40 some years? What other games did he do so well with all those contestants? You think about that show, and you think about what he did. You think about the exciting things he did, giving away cars nonstop, giving away $10,000, playing Plinko, playing the grand game, giving away multiple cars, doing the showcases, spinning the big wheel. I have a classmate of mine who went and did the Price is Right live when I believe it was in State College. She went with her and her sisters and her family, and they didn't get picked, but they had a ball. They don't realize how big The Price is Right always was. It always will be, no matter what. Drew's taken that next step the last 15 years. We keep forgetting Drew Carey has had that show now for 15 years. He's made it his. After all those years of stand-up comedy and doing the Drew Carey show, he's found a home, and it's worked. He's made it his. And I'm down with that whenever you get a chance to watch. I don't get a chance to watch morning television as much as I used to. But when I was little, and when we were real little, we remember sitting, waiting at 11 o'clock, seeing Bob, and we remember, I still remember him when he went gray. That was too funny. Remember there was an episode where he took the shirt off his back and gave it to somebody in the audience because they actually liked the shirt. And he's doing the showcase showdown with a sport jacket and a tie. too hilarious. It is. It really is. He was 99. I saw a couple memes saying he didn't go over. He just got to 100 without going over. Anyway, he made it to 99. He joins his lovely wife Dorothy. I gotta burn through this. Sometimes I have to go through, because he did Truth or Consequences so many years. He did over 40,000 contestants, 200. I have to double check. $200 million worth of cash and prizes in his 35-year career. I still brag about, like, all the times that I've seen him, that I got a chance to watch all the game shows and that. He will always be iconic. In an era where we're losing people left and right, this one hurts. But he was 99. You give me a handful of people that can get to 99, do a show for 35 years, everybody woke up in the morning just so they could see him at 11 o'clock or 8 o'clock or whenever it was on your side on your time zone. It was the most watched game show in the history of television. It still is. There's not very many big ones out there. And we lost a good one. And we lost an iconic figure. From what I was told, he could have probably walked through that door. There was one story that said he wanted to go back on that show when he hit 100. Unfortunately, I hate saying that. Hey, God saying, "Come on down." He's had an absolute amazing life. So it's a little bit of something to teach a little bit. Live your life. Enjoy the things that you do. Enjoy the places you go, the things you do, and enjoy the work that you do. And build that grind, because that man did it till he was 99. He was in television for almost 40-some, 50-some plus years. Good looking guy, man. We're going to miss him. And if you know a lot about how you like The Price is Right, show and throw your comment in. What was your favorite moment? Do you remember? Do you remember a funny moment? A big moment you remember? Put it in the comment, man, because God loved this world, because we're taking it pieces at a time. And I'll say it just like he did. Bob Barker reminding you to help control the pet population. Have your pet spayed or neutered.